All right, bonsoir tout le monde, Ani, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to our combined council meeting of May the 5th. I hope everybody is doing well. Randy, it's nice to see you're recovering well, so that's good. Bonsoir tout le monde, Ani, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to our combined council meeting of May. Okay, Mel, there's something wrong because whatever I say gets repeated back. Oh, I guess it stopped. Okay. I'd also like to welcome a new employee that started at the municipality. As people know, Carly is expecting actually any day. And we'd like to give a special shout out to Kadine Beaulieu, who will be replacing Carly during the year. And so we welcome you, Kadine. We hope you find your assignment enjoyable, and council is a great bunch of people. So welcome to the municipality of French River. So having said this, I'm just checking to make sure there's no feedback. Can you hear the feedback? No, okay. All right, so it seems we're okay now. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I need a resolution to adopt the agenda. Moved by Randy, seconded by Dave. All those in favor? Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, we'll move on. There are no delegations tonight, correct? Good. Moving right along. Then I need a resolution to resolve into the committee of the whole. Moved by Renee and seconded by Dean. All those in favor? Thank you. So the gavel turns over to you, Madame Renee.
So good evening. Reports and items for consideration. 6.1, General Governance. 6.1.1, the COVID-19 update. And I believe Mark Gagnon will speak to this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll concentrate on the vaccination centers. In terms of operations, nothing has changed since our last meeting, so everything operates as was reported on last time. In terms of vaccinations, as you're all aware, the province is now ramping up the age groups. So starting tomorrow, actually, 50 plus people can register online. It was opened by phone earlier this week in the Sudbury area. And they're also accepting people who cannot work from home that fall within Group 1. For example, municipal bylaw enforcement officers, police officers, firefighters, those types of individuals, teachers, or people who work within the school environment as examples. So I invite everybody to visit the website. It's all very clearly laid out, and Public Health has also put out a notice that we've shared as well. Starting the week of May 10th, they're looking at 40 plus individuals, and the week of May 17th, 30 plus, and the week of May 24th, opening it up to 18 plus. And these are all our mass vaccination clinics. So as I said, they're starting to ramp things up, and so we're going to get a little bit busy. On May 13th in Albin will be our next clinic locally. May 19th, again in Albin on a Wednesday. So you'll notice they've added an additional clinic in Albin. So we'll have 2 weeks in a row. May 20th, there'll be one in St. Charles. May 26th, again in St. Charles. And in May 27th in Albin again. And we're looking at approximately 360 doses per clinic. And we've added 2 additional clinics during the week. So those will run between 9:30 and 4:30-ish. And then we'll start looking at second dosage clinics that will be scheduled later in June, starting into July. So I'll be able to report on that later on. So that's all I had, Madam Chair, at this point in time. Again, main message, anybody who qualifies for the vaccine, if you can book your appointment as soon as you can, we encourage that. And we also encourage you to continue following protocols and proper distancing measures as provided by the health experts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions for Mark, or we're all good with that?
Yeah.
We'll continue on
Madam
to
Chair?
6.1.2. Yes.
I just
Yes.
wanted to say that. That's okay. I just wanted to say that last Thursday, they did over 400 vaccinations in Albert, which I thought was pretty amazing. And the work that the people did there, the volunteers and our volunteer firefighter, our bylaw, our staff were amazing. Just went in and out really quickly. So get your jabs.
Okay, so 6.1.2 governance structure report, recommendation to amend the procedure bylaw. I believe that our clerk, Melanie, will speak to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this report tonight is just to present council with a recommendation to amend our procedure bylaw to change our meeting structure. So based on discussions with the mayor and having experienced council's current governance structure through the pandemic and using electronic methods, we've recognized that we could simplify our structure at this time. So just to give a bit of background, so during the 2014-2018 term, council at that time had established the combined council meeting, so the type of meeting that we're having this evening. So that's a meeting that we start off the meeting as council, as a regular meeting, and then we go into committee. So committee of the whole, just to give a little explanation. So committee of the whole is when all council members meet as a committee. So to deal with matters in a less formal manner than at a regular meeting. So kind of being more flexible with the rules of procedure and allowing more discussion, kind of things like that. So that section of the agenda is separated in portfolios where you hear items that are presented under the administration, the finance, public works, community services, and so on. So the resolutions are not formally adopted usually at a committee of the whole. The items are discussed, the reports are presented to council, and usually council sitting as committee would make recommendations to council. So for formal action, either at a next meeting or once we go back into the regular section of the meeting. So at that time also we had the council combined meeting, and we had a regular meeting, and we had the Public Works Environmental Committee. Following that term, so in 2018, usually at the beginning of each term, usually council is presented with a history of the structure and how and the governance of council and the municipality, and we look for feedback and their wish on how they want to make decisions, and so resulting from that feedback, council they wished to create a structure where we had committees of council combined with members of the public. So those would be the advisory committees that we have in place right now. So I know that through COVID, we haven't had a lot of those meetings. So that process really just ramped back up in the past months. So we have the Environmental Advisory Committee, we have the Public Works Advisory Committee, the Economic Development, and the Recreation and Community Advisory Committees. So those meetings are combined with citizens and members of council. So that was established in April 2019. So since that time, so usually when you have advisory committees, usually councils are not going to need a committee of the whole, because we have the committees that go through items, projects, any reports of, let's say, of new programs or new ideas. So now at this time we have the two governance structures going on, and at this time we're not using them as to what they were intended. So usually at these meetings, so example for tonight, usually we wouldn't have any any formal decisions. But almost every month we're having to have, because there's so many things going on, we're having to adopt resolutions at both meetings. So with discussions with the mayor and with staff, we are recommending that we would eliminate the combined meeting structure and adopt a regular meeting twice a month. So the same timing, so first Wednesday of the month and the third Wednesday of the month. So we would have 2 regular meetings, and we would hold the committee meetings as they are held right now, so the same schedule. So those recommendations would go directly to council to be discussed, and those items being recommended for adoption at council. So either at that regular meeting that they're being presented, or at the following one. So that decision would be made by council on the urgency of those decisions being made. So if council wishes to do this, then I would prepare the procedure bylaw with those amended changes to reflect that change, and it would be presented at the next meeting. So giving time to prepare the bylaw and to maybe consider other changes if there are any.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Does anybody have any questions? Mayor Giselle?
I just wanted to add to what Mel presented. I think it's important to note that one of the reasons that we did have the committee of the whole was that there was no opportunity for public input, because the other committees that we had of council were only made up of councillors. So councillors would speak to councillors, but there was no way or no time to get some public input. Now that we have an active committees, especially the environmental committee that's been active the last few months, and the cultural and community recreation committee is starting up again, and the other 2 will be starting. I think we do have members of the public that's able to participate. Secondly, if nothing else COVID has shown us is that, and as much as I hate Zoom has been instrumental to present council's public face to members, our residents here, and our seasonal residents. So every twice a month, the residents can tune in and find out what's happening at council. They can go on the website, get the agenda. If there's something in there that they wish to have an opinion made of, they have plenty of opportunity to do so. Then if they don't get a chance to do that, and they hear it through the grapevine, because we know that there's no need for a newspaper here, because the word gets around pretty fast, especially if it's something that an issue is near and dear to them. People can then go back on the website and really and listen to the council meeting to see what the discussion was, instead of making assumptions on things that are not true. So to return to the regular governance structure with the public committees, I think it is good for us. It's good for the public, and it'll move the work of council a little bit quicker than what it was before. So I'm quite comfortable returning to that governance, and I think we'll be more efficient doing it that way, and it will include public input as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pajot. Councillor Richard?
Hi, I was just going to, I think you've answered part of my question through you, Madam Chair. Yeah. So I think the regular meetings is a good idea. I've always asked why the council of the whole, but I get the fact that we've got people that could ask questions, but we could always give that right to a normal meeting if we really want to, right? So I think having it this way is less red tape, and it's a little bit less confusing for all of us, and makes it simple. And the fact that we have these meetings online now, I think it's a great idea. So I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Mallette. Councillor Dean, I believe you had your hand up.
Well, I didn't, but I'll speak.
Oh.
I was going to put my hand up, but if somebody else had their hand up first, I can wait. I kind of will miss the committee of the whole. I think that it gives an opportunity for more informal talk on issues, and some of these issues will come from our committees, or where the public has more input to those committees. They don't really have much input to our council meetings, and they'll have even less if we have just formal council meetings. I have always liked the committee of the whole. At one time, on my tenure on council, the first meeting of the month was all committee of the whole, and the second meeting of the month was formal and adopted or didn't adopt the resolutions and recommendations that came from the committee of the whole. But the committee of the whole gives an opportunity for council to have more sort of well, not formal discussions, and you can speak your piece, you can have your turn, you can say what you want to, and it's not all necessarily got to be documented down. It doesn't mean that we don't, as soon as somebody does make a resolution or a recommendation, it will be in the minutes, but otherwise conversation can be a little bit more easily conducted, and everybody can feel more informal while doing so. I sort of lean to liking that, and I note while we've been doing this with Zoom meetings, our meetings have been ending early. We haven't had any long meetings as a result of having a committee of the whole. Generally speaking, when the committee of the whole finishes, the rest of the meeting is a few minutes, unless we should have a issue when once we're back in regular council meeting. I'm not sure that we're going to achieve anything more in terms of conducting our business more quickly or getting anything done in a fashion that is improving on what we're doing. And as far as time is concerned, I don't see us, especially on Zoom. Maybe if we get back to where we're talking eyeball to eyeball at the council table, it will take a little longer, but we're not taking much time for our meetings. Generally, we're done before 8 every time we have a council meeting, no matter which kind. And what we do come up with at committee of the whole makes for recommendations that council then can quickly deal with in a formal way, usually following what they've already decided at committee of the whole. So that's my piece on it. I'd kind of like to see it stay like this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Hazlett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just kind of go sort of along the same lines as Councillor Wenborn. The one sort of point is when the 4 committees we do have speak to 4 sort of distinct topics, and the committee of the whole allows public to put input into a wider variety of topics that maybe don't fall into those. The change is to me either way is acceptable. But my one real concern is, would Renee, you be able to speak then on the first meeting of the month? Because we'd rather have you chair one. Come on, you'd be losing. So
I'm not sure what the process would be on this, but
maybe the mayor would have to default for the first meeting of the month, just so that we have the balance, of course. But
I have no problem with that.
that's all.
Mel has a comment to that, I believe.
Yes, and those are great points, Councillor Wenborn and Councillor Hazlett. Just to speak now about the chair. So the mayor, as the chair, she has the ability to be very flexible in allowing the deputy mayor to chair a meeting once in a while, or having the deputy mayor chair the first meetings of the month. Those things can be flexible. It doesn't need to be in the procedure bylaw. And for the informality of the meetings, I think that the chair can allow as much discussion as council wishes. I think we've been very flexible at the regular meetings on being not informal, but being flexible with the allowances of debate and open discussion. And council still has the ability at any time, if they feel that they want to go in a committee of the whole, in a special meeting, in a regular meeting, you can still go in to committee of the whole at any time. And so one thing that I've been seeing is that almost at every meeting, I didn't do the exact stats, but almost at every committee of the whole meeting, council has been adopting resolutions because we've had a need to. There has been things that had to be dealt with right away or adopted right away. And the items, even if we have 2 regular meetings a month, if there's an item that's being presented by a committee, so like we're doing tonight, we're having recommendations from 2 committees. The chair has the ability to present the minutes, the recommendations. If council wishes to allow another month, another 2 weeks in order to, to think about it before making a formal decision, council has that ability as well.
Does any other councillor have something? Mayor Pajot?
Just want a couple of things. Also, the difference with having members of the public on these committees, they are invited to participate at council meetings. So if there's a committee member, let's say on the environmental committee, because there's a lot of stuff going through tonight with regards to the environmental. So a special invitation was sent to them to, if they wish to participate. And if they have something to say as a public member, they're allowed to do that. As well as, it's not, maybe I didn't explain it too well, Dean. It's not, when I meant time sensitive issue, it's not because, we finish late or we finish early. I don't care if we finish at 9 o'clock at night. That's not, as long as we have a good discussion. And you're probably right, when we get eyeball to eyeball again, we'll probably have longer discussions, perhaps not, depending on the subject. But it's a matter of getting the business at hand done. Like, for instance, awarding of contracts. Hate to postpone it, an awarding of a contract because we're at the committee of the whole for 2 weeks and put it off. So, and also I think that this council has functioned in a way where I think everybody's comfortable, and I don't think we're too formal. I mean, we have to do some formal stuff because we're legally obligated to do so, but our discussions, the way I've led them and Renee has led them, is to let everybody speak their mind, and you take as much time as you need to put your thoughts forward. And again, with the Zoom, and once we go back to council, we're still going to be on Zoom. So that's not going away. That's here to stay now. So we may be back in council chambers. And the thing with Zoom is that more people are participating and watching what council is doing, except whereas when it was just the public, we have our wonderful Peter and Angela who are so loyal to us and would come at every meeting. But aside from that, maybe 1 or 2 other people would come if they were interested. Now, we may get a dozen. At one meeting, we had a couple hundred. So I think that's allowing the public for a far more input than we ever were able to provide before. And I think that's a good thing. So for me, it's just for efficiency. It doesn't take away from any of the discussions or the length. And as Mel said, we don't need to make any decision. If anyone doesn't feel comfortable and wants to defer a decision because they need more time to think about it, that's okay. That's okay as well. So.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Or so I will speak. I'm in favor of changing the format that we presently do. I find that sometimes we are spending 3 to 4 meetings before we can make a decision. I think some issues, because of, if we just take the environmental committee report that was brought to us 2 weeks ago at a meeting, they met the week prior to that. So we were informed of what was going on. We brought it to one meeting. We are bringing it to tonight's meeting. And then we will probably revisit this in 2 weeks to make a formal decision. So we're spending like 2 months to actually get anything off the ground. And I find that's a lot of time consuming. And people, we have been informed and they have the opportunity to look at the minutes and to reach out to every counselor. We see the public comments going on. So I think 4 meetings to discuss a thing is a lot of time. Some decisions may need 4 meetings. Some may only need 1 or 2. But at least with having 2 regular meetings, we will be able to make resolutions if we want to. I know right now we do them and we're not supposed to, but we do to, get tenders out. But this is not your regular kind of meeting that we're supposed to be doing. So I myself, I am in favor. I think we should be able to make decisions at every meeting if we choose to make them. And like Giselle said, if we choose that we need more time, then we defer to the following meeting. And I think we have had a lot of inputs in our meetings. We've even at a regular council meeting, we've allowed the public to speak when we were in person. So for that reason, I think that, we do have the communication available. We are listening. We are talking freely at every meeting. And that if we need more time, we just ask for more time. So that is my opinion. So I'm not sure if we are voting on this tonight or not. No, so we'll bring this forward in 2 weeks. Councillor Bob, you need to unmute. Bob, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry about that. No, we do have to get highball to eyeball. I just want to say that I'm ready to accept the recommendation from our clerk. We have had good discussions in the regular meeting, good discussions in the committee of the whole. Either yourself, Madam Chair, or Madam Mayor, as I don't remember anybody being cut on time to state their opinions out there. I think it's time for a change, and let's try it. And hey, if a few months down the road we don't like it, we go back. But I think it will be more efficient and will streamline things doing it this new way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I guess we'll revisit this in 2 weeks at the regular meeting.
Yes, so I will be bringing the actual procedure bylaw showing the changes to the next meeting for adoption.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
So 6.1.3, the AMO Conference 2021 Delegation Requests to meet with Ministers of Parliament and Assistants. Who is speaking to this? Mark, our CAO?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. As we do every year, the AMO Conference is coming up in August, and we have the opportunity to request delegations with various ministers. That submission is due for June 4th, and we always put it on council agenda to see if council and mayor have any ideas of which ministers they'd like or for what opportunities. So it's there for your discussion, and I'm awaiting your direction.
Does anybody have any recommendations? Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark, I would like to make a suggestion that we try to organize a meeting with Ministry of Transportation on having new contracts issued on Highway 69. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that there's a contract coming up in the near future. I don't know whether anyone else has heard that, but I would like to see us pushing a little bit to see another contract between here and Parry Sound. I mean, there were times when this was supposed to be all finished long before now, and maybe we could just give a little push if we had a meeting with MTO on that matter.
Through you, Madam Chair, just.
Yes.
Are we talking about the 4-laning, Dean? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, I just want to make sure we're I have the right information.
Yeah.
I think the ministry did put out an announcement a month or so ago, but I'll go back and check those that information about the new timelines as well.
Good comment, Dean. Councillor Richard?
Right through you. I guess what I'd like to see, I'd like to be able to push again the high-speed infrastructure. I mean, it's a very hot topic in both provincial and federal thing, but having an eye-to-eye meeting with the minister, I think, would be a good idea, and see how it goes. And I know there's been lots of announcements for lots of millions of dollars, but so far we've had most of those bypass us. And if there's some that are sitting in somebody's lap, we haven't heard of any decisions being made. So I think pushing it would, I mean, everybody wants it, but I mean, I think we should take the opportunity. And I know that Max Serre has been very open to the idea of pushing it, but I think in conjunction with him and the minister, I think would be a good idea to take advantage of the AMO conference for that.
Thank you, Councillor Richard. Anybody else have any recommendations? Mayor Pajot?
So glad I'm not chairing because I get to speak. I'm thinking, because it's going to be an election year, one of the things that we've been pushing a lot is infrastructure for our roads, and we're still struggling with Montigere, how we're going to pay for that, because we can put it off. I think we're probably coming to the end of putting it off. And so perhaps we can talk about funds that are set aside, infrastructure funds that are set aside for the North. I know that at our last AMO meeting, last August, the minister made it clear at this time there was nothing for us except borrow money if we wanted to do that. And of course, we don't want to do that. But now with the election just down the road, perhaps we can look at pushing for a Northern Infrastructure Fund.
Okay, good comment. Anybody else? Councillor Dean?
I thought we were applying for, hoping to get about a 90% grant that was going to do a lot with Montigere, along with several other roads. That's what I thought I was reading here just the other day.
Our CAO, Mark, will speak to this.
Yeah, the last application that we submitted, everything got stopped and revamped. Then we reapplied under the new funding formula. We're not successful. So we're hoping to resubmit once the next envelope becomes available, Councillor Dean. So that's basically what happened with Montigere. And if council remembers, during the budget process, we did set monies aside to do some more investigation regarding that main culvert. And I'm hoping to have some results of initial results of that engineering assessment in the next month or two.
Thank you.
Councillor Randy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just all great suggestions. To Richard's suggestion there about the broadband. Following the provincial budget, the province released an additional $48 million for the broadband fund this term additionally. As well, I would say Parry Sound to Sudbury, the province is investing $12 million on Highway 69. And there was another $48 million invested in the Community Infrastructure Fund. So there's all great opportunities to get in front of those ministers and get some funding to come our way. So the provincial budget has been really beneficial, I think, to Northern Ontario this year. And I can't wait to meet some of the ministers in person. AMO.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Richard?
Through you, just a clarification. So is the AMO conference not a virtual conference still?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay. So do you have direction, Mark? Is that clear?
Yeah, so I have direction regarding MTO and 4-laning of Highway 69, high-speed internet, and I'll determine which ministry we need to apply for, and then Ministry of Infrastructure regarding Montéguérin and small rural funding. So I'll work on those files and have those submissions sent in.
Okay. Is there
Thank
a
you very much.
specific date? Is there a specific timeline that you have to send to have your meetings in?
The requests need to be in by June 4th.
Okay, so if we think of anything in the next few weeks,
If you think of anything, I think we have enough.
okay, well, that's good to know. So at least we know. My only concern would be with COVID, and again, our tourist industry that has been hit now for 3 years in a row, going into year number 4. Should they not be able to open up in another 2 weeks, this will affect them again for a 4th year. And again, they're in that part of the business that there isn't really much relief for them. And so that to me is a little concerning if they're hit with year number 4. I don't know if it warrants a meeting with the ministers, but I think it should be advocated that, again, they are being hit. I know right now that all the small businesses are being hit hard. But for us, the tourist industry has been hit now for 4 years in a row. So from the flooding, from the fires, and now 2 years of COVID. So I see Randy has a comment to that, so I will let him speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And actually, last week, the province announced, I think it was $48 million for small tourist operations under 50 employees and hospitality, up to $20,000 for all small industries. So I would encourage anybody in the tourism industry to get the application out sooner than later before the funds disappear. But there's actually a large stream of funding that just was announced that's there to help our small tourist operators recover from the effects of COVID having shut their businesses down. My second question would be perhaps to Mark or Melanie. When do we register for the AMO conference? And when are we taking, who's going? Virtually.
Through you, Madam Chair, I thought we had made those decisions
Okay.
back in
Yeah.
February, if I recall.
Okay,
But
sorry.
certainly we'll go back and verify, and if there's somebody who's not registered, please advise us, and we'll certainly look into it.
I'm not going by default anymore, so.
Okay. All right, let's continue on. 6.2, finances. I don't think we have anything to report. So we'll continue on to, am I correct, Mel, saying that? Yes. Okay, 6.3, Public Works and Environmental Services. 6.3.1, a resolution to award the contract for street sweeping for a period of 3 years. So is Bob gonna speak to this, or are we just gonna?
Through you, Madam Chair, Bob's couldn't attend the meeting this evening, so
Okay.
before you the report and recommendation. If there's any questions, please address them. I'm sure there'll be one question of which our treasurer, who's in charge of procurement, will certainly be happy to answer.
Okay, so I see Councillor Randy does have a question.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I see that national sweeping has been not met the requirements, obviously, for this contract, and with significantly less cost involved in their tender. Can we discuss why they didn't meet the tender? And also, who was the company we hired last year to do the sweeping? I just don't recall. Thank you.
Okay, our treasurer, Mark, can you answer these questions?
I believe last year, it was Lafont Contracting, or I believe.
Yeah, yes, you're correct, Mark. Was Lafont contracted, who didn't submit a bid this year.
The request for tender has a requirement for a bid deposit. And for the second company, National Sweeping, there was no bid deposit that was submitted with the tender. And it is a significant bid irregularity. And according to our purchasing bylaw, the response to a bid deposit is absent is a rejection of the bid. And this is standard in the industry also. So we have to reject the bid.
Okay, Councillor Randy?
To you, Madam Chair. Mark, did we reach out and just question what perhaps the issue was with the bid security not being presented? Being COVID, it's tough for all companies to compete. Just curiosity, did we approach the company at all, just for clarification?
Yes, I approached the company, and the president of the company just did not submit, and agreed. I forgot, so sorry. And then
Okay.
he understands that it was the bid had to be rejected.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Richard?
Just to that effect. I mean, now that the bids are all open and we see the prices, it's kind of hard to send it back for tender, right? But I do see that there's a significant difference between both. So obviously, if they're aware of the omission and didn't do it, I guess there's not much we can do. But at the end of the day, it's 2.5 times the amount for the ones that we want to, for the one that that we were looking at approving. So I mean, is there a way around this, or are we sort of binded by the process and we have to pay double just because the process tells us that?
To reissue the tender, there would have to be a change to the scope. We cannot just not accept the bids and go for tender, because we'd always be going out for tender until we get a bid that would be lower enough for us to accept. So it is according to our budget. And I believe that the price that for the successful or the recommended company is in line with what we were paying in the previous years. So it's not that way off. It's the other company that really went low, very low.
Okay, Councillor Randy?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Mark that pretty much the question that he had asked. Last year's tender was like 26,000, I thought. So I was just curious if you could confirm that.
Yes, it was. It's in line with last year's pricing. Maybe a little bit higher, but not much higher.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Richard?
Just to follow up. So I understand the process, but at the end of the day, is there, I mean, had the second company given the deposit, we'd be recommending the second company. I mean, the fact that they bid low, I mean, that's their prerogative of bidding whatever they feel is good for them. And if we accept it, then the work is done accordingly. But is there not a way around it? But I understand now that it's all open. I mean, so I guess the answer to my own question is that we're binded by this process, although that we could have saved about $17,000-$20,000 worth of money.
Councilman, I'm a finance person, so we looked at every angle. Okay, I don't want to pay double the price for somebody, but our purchasing bylaw is very clear on this.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Dean?
Is Duncor the same company we've had the past year?
No.
It was Lafont Contracting in the past
This is an
couple
entirely new
years.
company this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions or comments? Okay, I have one. Maybe what do you know how much we had budgeted in our budget for this year's sweeping?
We had $38,000 in budget.
Oh, so we're still staying pretty much within the scope.
Yes.
So
Yes.
okay, thank you very much. So Mel, do you have a resolution ready for this?
Yes,
So we need a mover and a seconder.
that's correct.
So Councillor Dean, seconded by Councillor Bob.
It's duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council awards the contract for the street sweeping for a period of 3 years to Duncor Enterprises for the amount of $32,850 for 2021, 1,200 for the sidewalks, and 1,295 per kilometer for 2022, and 1,240 for the sidewalks, and 1,320 per kilometer for 2023, plus applicable taxes.
All in favor? Okay.
I have a quick question though, if I may.
Yes.
Just a quick question. So this is a general question. So the fact that this company or any other company in the future that it's doing a tender doesn't meet the requirements, should we not even exclude that company from even being part of the bidding tender, and we shouldn't even be seeing it? I know that's just a question. I don't know if it makes sense, but I'm just, we're making a decision on something that we can't really make a decision on. We've only got one, but I mean, even if we had 3 or 4 and one isn't giving the requirements for the bidding, why should it even be considered into this process here? That's my question.
Melanie?
Just part of the competitive process and the bidding process, staff has to be open and transparent to council on every tender that we've received and every proposal. So we need to report to council on it.
Even if they don't, even if they don't fulfill the requirements of a regular tender process?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of silly, but okay, I'll accept that as an answer. Thank you.
I think it's only, in my opinion, being transparent. And so we actually see who is bidding on these jobs and that we are following the right requirements and that we're not just taking the lowest bidder because of pricing. So I myself like seeing this. I think it allows us to be more involved in the decision making and really looking and seeing why companies are not accepted, So that's my opinion. Okay, so I believe we can continue on. 6.3.2, the Chair's Report, Environmental Advisory Committee. I believe Kevin will speak to this. Or will it be the Chair, Randy?
It's the chair's report, Madam Mayor, and Kevin can certainly jump in on the documentation or report that was prepared for the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So the Environmental Committee met, I guess it's 2 weeks ago or so, to discuss the operational review that was done by J2PG Consulting, Inc. That consultation put forth a bunch of recommendations, and those recommendations came to the Environmental Committee to be discussed. The Environmental Committee discussed the short-term measures that were proposed to be implemented by the consultant. We went through the 5 main themes that were given to us, and we generally came forward with a recommendation to council based on what the committee thought was best. And they were then discussed at our last council meeting. So last council, we discussed the 5 motions, and then staff prepared a recommendations going forward for us to discuss here tonight at council. So I don't know if I'm supposed to go into the body of this as far as staff recommendations, or just open it to the floor.
Okay, Mark, you want to speak to this?
Not necessarily, but what I may wish to suggest is give Kevin, our manager, an opportunity just to highlight some of the sections of the reports and the recommendations prior to reading the resolutions.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. So what the committee came about was 5 recommendations. The first recommendation is to close the Highway 528 transfer site. Second recommendation to council is to close the waste transfer site at the public works yard during the operations of the hours of the landfill site. Third recommendation is to consider curbside recycling services for the urban areas within the municipality. The fourth recommendation is to increase monitoring of the Albin waste transfer site. And the fifth recommendation is kind of a big one, is to direct staff to research and report on the financial considerations to fence and supervise all the remaining bin sites. So, and supervise, so staff them and security and everything. So that's the rundown of everything.
Does anybody have any questions or comments to these? Councillor Dean?
Kevin, would you make comment on those recommendations? Do you think that they're feasible, workable? Have we received much comment from the public on those recommendations? Those were recommendations to council to consider and hopefully give time. There was been time given for the public to respond to them. What do you think, Kevin? Are these worthwhile trying? Are they, in your view, will it move us on the road to improving particularly our recycling and reduce costs for our garbage handling? There's several different aspects that are supposed to be improved if we move along this line, and this is coming straight from the consultant. So.
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Madam Chair, to answer Councillor Wenborn's question, stop me if I'm ranting a bit, but I think Wolseley Bay shutting that site, it doesn't really serve the public in any way. It is just a cost to us to remove the snow, to clean up after it, and it's abused heavily by West Nipissing residents because it is down in the end and it's locked in. Any other way you leave the municipality, you're going to hit another transfer site. So removing that site will save a significant amount of money and hours. As for fencing all the sites, that's a big cost. It is for sure. But if we do not get some sort of control on our waste management system, like we are burning through our landfill, and that is a very expensive asset. We still don't have approvals on our second and third phase. So we need to make some serious changes to our system to keep going. We're running out of time. Now's the time to do it. All our bins are running to the end of their lifespan. Our trucks are constantly breaking down. So by eliminating some of these sites and these pickups, at the very least, is going to be a big step forward for sure.
Okay, Councillor Dave?
So from my understanding, this what we're doing now, or what we're discussing, is kind of an introduction to basically have garbage pickup and recycling pickup at everywhere in the municipality. That's what I'm gathering from this. So I'm wondering, is it feasible to spend a lot of money on the bin sites that we have now if we're eventually going to turn everything into garbage pickup, curbside pickup?
Anybody? Okay, Councillor Giselle, you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't think this is the beginning of full curbside pickup. So there is this is a measure to assist in releasing some of the pressures off our landfill. I think to say that we're going to have that the future holds full curbside pickup will create a lot of discord in the municipality, and will not. It's a far more complicated issue because we do have over 50% of our population that is seasonal. So curbside pickup is a broader, much broader issue to deal with, and it's not before us. I think that doing curbside pickup for the urban areas in Noelville and Albin is a good start. To to do that because it's concentrated and can be easily handled and will save money and time and space in our landfill. But I want to make it clear before we get a million calls there that we're heading towards full curbside pickup. That's not on the agenda for the next year or two at least. So I just want to make that very clear and save ourselves a few phone calls.
Councillor Richard?
Thank you, through you. So I think I like most of those recommendations. I think doing the, I'm just reading my agenda here. So I think doing the pickup in Wellville and Albin, I think it's a good idea. And we can do that as a 6-month trial or something like that and assess it moving forward. So if we present that as a trial and not a final decision moving forward, I think you might get more public acceptance. I think people will appreciate the fact that we're trying to find solutions. And I think that's probably a way of doing it. So approaching it as a temporary, call it a temporary project, trial error, I think is a good thing. As for fencing some of those areas, I mean, I'll speak to Shaw Road because I mean, I've seen even in Albin, there's lots of items that are left there at different times of night and of day, and then all of a sudden people even drop off the silliest of items during the day, and then you even confront them, and you get a not so happy salute from those people and tell you that they can do what they want. But at the end of the day, we're picking up couches and fridges and stuff like that. That's not okay. And a lot of times, especially from the Shaw, I can speak, you're getting people from the north side. So you're getting it from the St. Charles area because they're only about 1 kilometer off the site. So it's not being used by our people, and at the same time, regardless of who drops all that junk there, it shouldn't be there. So, but I think fencing those areas are probably easier to do. Fencing the Albin might be different, but I think putting a fence and maybe putting better cameras and being able to enforce the uses of those cameras, I think will be a good thing. And I think people will appreciate the fact that we're trying to do something finally and not just speak about it and just keep going from year after year. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Randy?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of points I'll make just for clarification of the public. Our current landfill site is due to be out of space in 2032. So having curbside pickup will allow the driver to not accept contaminated materials, help us better recycle and help material go where it belongs, and control the influx of material to the landfill to extend its life cycle until we can get the second and third bin portions of the landfill site approved by the MTO, Ministry of Natural Resources, and get it open. As well, I agree that it's a great idea to erect fences around the sites to control, illegal dumping and people dumping material that belongs, at the landfill site, not at the bins. And that was something that the committee felt strongly about, but we also discussed that they would still be available on Sundays, that the gates would be open for the cottagers to access, not perhaps all night like they currently have. They will have to adjust their schedule to get the garbage to the landfill, perhaps Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening early. But there will be some amendments made in the way that those facilities are handled to make them more efficient. I think that many municipalities in the area operate in this way, and I think we are probably one of the few that just don't have a lot of controls in place currently, and the system was abused. Two other points I would like to make is that West Nipissing just Monday morning had all their bag garbage out and their recycling all through the whole municipality. They're adjacent to us. They have the same rough makeup. They have cottagers there, and so they can do it. I've seen it up in Temiskaming Shores, curbside pickup. So it's an adjustment for people, but at the end of the day, if it turns out to be the better way to go, then that's something that we should in the future move to, providing that works. The trial is a good idea. So I too approve all the motions before us, and it's time to move forward, try something different. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few comments that I'd like to make on those 5. And we'll start with number 2. That we're the one where we're suggesting closing the waste transfer site at Public Works while the landfill site is open. It's an experiment. It was to see how people would react to that, whether they would find it that they can get to the landfill site easily and that it isn't necessary to have it is an experiment. And we wanted to see what the reaction from the public would be like, because a lot of what we're suggesting is some drastic change, and the public needs an opportunity to react to those changes. And when we're talking about the curbside recycling, it's recycling curbside at this point. We're not talking about starting general curbside pickup for garbage. And it's, you'll notice, of course, it's in the 2 kind of urban areas in our municipality. Maybe could even be stretched to Minettville, but we're not looking at going very far out with this recycling. But we'd like to see how people handle the recycling. Would they conform to the requirements for recycling? We would be able to have a lot of recycling that we either can take or not take, depending on whether it's contaminated or not. It too is an experiment. It's nothing suggesting that this is going to be permanent. We'd like to see how it would work. That's what the committee was thinking. The recommendation number 4 for monitoring the Albin site was this, to do it starting this summer. We've done it before. We've got some young people that we hire that can maybe do some of this, but just to help with the education of the public for this year and see if we can't reduce the junk that's left there during normal hours, or make sure that when people are recycling that we're hopefully getting uncontaminated recycling. But certainly, and I think we all recognize that just monitoring the site with one of our student employees for the summer, it's not like having a policeman on the job, but they would recommend, and most of the public will listen to the recommendations or suggestions that are made to them, and that's an educational process. The last one, which is a kind of a major one, the committee wanted staff to see how much would it cost to fence those 3 sites. That's an important factor to consider. But it isn't just fencing. If you'll notice, it says fence and supervise. In other words, when the gates open, somebody's going to be there to open the gate and watch over the site as people are using it. So there's some added cost to all of this, but we're also reducing costs in many respects that will help ameliorate those added costs. So there's a lot more to these 5 recommendations than just first glance. So think of all of it that I'm trying to suggest to you of what has been recommended by the committee. And these recommendations pretty much come from the consultant. We didn't change much of what they're suggesting. Also, as an interim measure, it's a way for us to get started and to get the public thinking about what we're trying to do and see what the reactions are. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Councillor Richard.
Through just 2 questions here. So one, with regards to, let's say if we were to put gates, so could we not do gates where we have access to, where all the residents in the area would have access through either a card or a key system? That's the first question. And for the curbside pickup for the recycling, do we have the trucks that are able to do so, or do we would have to contract that out?
It was intended to contract, Richard.
Okay. Does that answer your questions, Richard, or do you want more clarification on that?
He's
I haven't
on
had
mute.
any answers yet, sorry. So my first question with regards to the gates, can we not use cards or keys if that's available? Or we're just looking at opening or shutting a gate? And the second one has to do with curbside. Do we have the infrastructure to do it, or we have to contract it out?
Okay, I will let Mark, the CAO, speak to this.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Chair. To answer the two questions quickly, the intent was to contract out the curbside recycling initiative so that the contractor picks it up directly, goes directly to the recycling agency rather than picking it up by our forces coming back to our landfill and re-picking it up. So eliminating a step, thus saving some costs, hopefully, but that'll be borne through the RFP and brought back to council for consideration. Secondly, in terms of the key gates, you'll see that the resolutions that'll be before you today is to start the investigation and costing of implementing those changes, gates, and the different ways of adding hydro cameras and alternative methods of being able to monitor those areas and provide more specific times to be able to access. So even though key gates could provide other issues and problems during the winter months in terms of not working and frustrating people as well, if you have somebody there monitoring who can check where the residents are coming from, then we have a more consistent way of collecting and ensuring the proper materials are being recycled. So if it's unmanned, we're still going to have some contamination and we're still going to have some abuse, I assume. If there's a person there verifying and checking things, it may be more beneficial. And I see Kevin had his hand up, so I'll defer to Kevin if you wanted to add anything else.
Okay, thanks. That answers my question.
Through you, Madam Chair. Exactly what Mark said. Adding unmanned gates we're still going to have the same issues. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change anyone's behavior there. So there has to be a manned, like a manned site, so someone can check everything on the way in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bob, I believe you had your hand up also. You can go ahead and speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to just find out how council feels about number 2. Councillor Dean spoke to it, what the committee's thoughts were on having the site closed, the site that the municipal garage closed during the hours that the dump is open. The recommendation from our short-term recommendation went as far as suggesting that should be closed completely. The committee thought this would be a way of starting, and the words of Dean were saying this is on a trial basis, an experiment. I'd just like to know how council feels about this one.
Okay, Councillor Randy? You're muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I apologize. Through you, Madam Chair. So actually, Bob, the committee was kind of split on this one a little bit. Some of them wish to see things remain as they were at the public works yard, and some were in favor of moving it off site. There's a huge cost savings to the municipality to move it off site. It's only 2.5 kilometers to the main landfill service. We discussed the fact that there will be certain people that don't have the mobility to make it. We discussed that the municipality has a service that it's looking at that. And I would also say that oh geez, lost my train of thought. I apologize. That there's just a huge cost savings to moving it off site. So I certainly believe that it as a trial, as it was suggested, is a great idea to just see how the community deals with that. But in the end of the day, it's going to save the municipality money and be sure that things are better handled. Oh, and that's what I was going to say too. We had discussed that at last council meeting that there was infrastructure money donated for roads, and I had suggested that we spend that money on Huel Road to upgrade the dump road a little bit, because there will be an increased volume of traffic. That we were considering that train of thought that Huel Road will obviously need to consider the increased traffic. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I just want to comment on
RCO.
Holy Road. Holy Road right now is actually 1 meter wider than what regulations are. Where we may have an issue is the entrance to the landfill, and those discussions are ongoing with our public works manager, environmental manager, in future consideration there. But the road itself is 1 meter wider than what the average standard of a road is, so it should be fine.
Okay. Councillor Dave?
Just to speak on Bob's question, to me, I think the dump is very close to town, so I don't think it's necessary to have it there. But at the very least, yes, close it when the landfill is open, because I see so many people there on days that the landfill is open, and it's just an extra 2.5 kilometers drive. It's not a big deal. I think as a trial, yeah, we can close it for when the dump is open and look at future taking it away. That's my opinion on that.
So can I just squeeze in and give my 2 cents? So I just wanted to say I'm okay with number 1, Wolseley Bay. I'm quite happy with that. Number 2, recommendation for Noelville. I would recommend that the bins be completely closed from Wednesday morning till Saturday afternoon. Not open and close, open and close. Just Wednesday morning, when the landfill opens, we shut the Noelville. And then Saturday afternoon, when the landfill closes, we open up the Noelville bins. So the Noelville bins would be open Saturday afternoon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And this way there would always be the same flow. It's always closed from Wednesday morning to Saturday. And people would have that routine and they would know. So that our seniors and our people that do walk to the bins, they would know that from Saturday afternoon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they are free to walk, the bins are open. And I think it would just create some consistency and be a lot easier on the staff, because the staff wouldn't have to run every day to open and close gates. They do it once on a Wednesday morning and reopen on a Saturday afternoon. So that would be my recommendation for that one, to make it easier just on everybody to not go back and forth. On number 3, considering curbside recycling services, I think this is a good start. I personally would recommend Wolseley Bay Road and Noelville, simply because we are removing their bins. And so if we give them the recycling, they may have to make less trips to the dump. So they may be more encouraged to recycle there. We have the bins in Albin. It's a little further out. It might be more costly for the recycling company. If we keep it within a smaller knit area, Wolseley Bay Road, Noelville, maybe branch out to Minettville with the recycling and start with that smaller area, because Albin does have a lot of side roads and many more cottagers. So I think it probably would be more efficient and less costly for us to do within a 10-kilometer radius versus a 40-kilometer radius. So that would be my recommendation for that. But I think it is important that we do start recycling somewhere, and perhaps this would be the place to do it. I'm okay with number 4 with increasing monitoring in Albin, and actually having somebody there monitor and direct. I think that's very good. And as for number 5, to look into pricing for fencing is a very good idea. My only concern with this would be that when the gates are closed, people might put their garbage on the outside of the fence. And so I think we're going to end up with a lot of garbage on the side, whether it be Shaw Road, it's gonna end up in the dishes like before. So it'd be nice to see what the cost would be, but I think we also do have to be realistic that the garbage will end up somewhere if they're not willing to go to the landfill. So those are my recommendations for these. So anybody else want to speak? Councillor Randy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to touch back on Hoole Road. I appreciate that the dimensions of the road are to proper spec. I was more referring to the dust control and the speed not being very well controlled on that road, and that the influx of traffic would worsen the effects of that for the inhabitants of that road. So spending some money, whether it's a hard surface treatment or something to control that dust, or more calcium, although the calcium doesn't seem to be doing enough as it is, might be necessary. And again, yeah, no, that's good. And then picking up the recycling in Alban, if you just were to stick to the village of Alban, I wouldn't suggest by any means going outside of the main village, as we'd expressed the same thing in that Noelville, just the core of the village. So they can easily get it in and out in a day kind of thing and do both. But thank you.
Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to go back to number 2, considering closing the waste transfer site during landfill hours. The consultants recommended closing the site in Noelville, period, completely. And the committee made this recommendation just to find out for a period of time, and we didn't specify a period of time in there, what the reaction of the people in Noelville would be to having the site closed. And we thought, well, an intermittent time would get us to gauge the reaction and see whether there'd be a terrible outcry or whether people are willing to live with it. But I think council should really think of it. Maybe we should just simply close the Noelville site, period, and let everybody start going right to the landfill site. And we'll look after people who are unable to get there by themselves. I mean, that's the purpose of discussion. I think we need to discuss that. This number 2, the recommendation of during landfill hours was an aside, but the consultants recommended closing it, period.
Okay, so I see that many of us have many different views on this. There are some resolutions that are made. How about we vote on the ones, we go through each resolution and make a decision? And if we're not ready to make a decision or we can't agree on a certain one, we could probably revisit that at the next meeting. Does that sound fair, or do we need to make resolutions on all 5? Can we defer one if we're not in agreement, Mark?
Yeah, and just to Melanie's computer's frozen and we can't reboot it because she's the host of the meeting, so we lose everybody. So I'm defaulted to reading resolutions. So just to help you out, each recommendation has its own resolution. So you can decide on each resolution as you go if you wish to defer or wish to deal with it at the next meeting or not, or deal with it this evening.
Okay. So let's start with the first resolution, I believe.
Can I speak first?
Sure, Richard.
Thank you, through you. So I just wanted to answer Councillor Bob's question on number 2 before we actually go. So my thought, I think closing the site, and again, this is going to be a contentious issue no matter what we do. Okay, but like I said earlier, I think people will appreciate the fact that we're being proactive and trying to find a solution moving forward and not just being stagnant about it. So I think closing the site and telling people this is a trial period. This is not forever and ever. So I think if you close the site and you open it for several days, you're going to have a lot of the junk that was being deposited during a 7-day period going to be deposited in 3 or 4 day period. And then you'll have, especially during the summer months, on a Saturday night or on a Sunday, you'll have a lot of the cottagers or people coming from other municipalities going through, just dumping that junk, and we're still going to have it there anyway. So I think just closing it is not I think for temporary. And then if we find that it doesn't work properly and then reopen it after a little while, I think that would be the best solution, or reopening it for certain periods, as Councillor Renee was suggesting a while ago. So that's my 2 cents on your question, Bob.
Okay. So are we ready to vote on or make a resolution to number 1? Is everybody in favor of this?
You need somebody to move a motion? on it?
Yeah,
Somebody, a
I'll
mover?
move.
Councillor Randy, is somebody to second it? Councillor Bob?
Whereas at their meeting held April 17th, 2021, the Environmental Advisory Committee reviewed and discussed the overview report prepared by staff in relation to the recommendations included in the third-party waste collection review dated October 15th, 2020, and have submitted the recommendation for Council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that Council approves the closure of the Highway 528 Wolseley Bay waste transfer site and directs staff to prepare a communication and implementation plan.
Are we all in favor of this one? Okay, everybody's in favor of number 1. So number 2, recommendations to council to close the waste transfer site as a public works during hours of landfill site operations. Need a mover for this? Dave and Dean, seconder.
Whereas at their meeting held April 17th, 2021, the Environmental Advisory Committee reviewed and discussed the overview report prepared by staff in relation to the recommendations included in the third-party waste collection review dated October 15th, 2020, and have submitted the recommendation for Council's consideration. Now therefore be it resolved that Council approves that the waste transfer site at Public Works Yard be closed during landfill operating hours and directs staff to prepare an implementation plan, monitor, and report on activities of the modified hours.
Okay. Any comments to this? Councillor Richard?
Yes, thank you. So we have on here, in the resolution, we have on a trial basis, correct?
Mhm.
Can we not qualify what that trial basis is going to be, so that people can have an idea what it is? Because sometimes, you know, like taxes was implemented, income tax was implemented 80 years ago, and they said it was temporary, and we're still paying income taxes. So, you know, not to say that. So I think it would probably be a good idea to maybe amend that resolution and put a time period and say for, you know, a period of 6 months or 12 months or whatever. I think we should put it long enough so we can go through the different cycles during the year, different periods of the year, so we can touch those different periods. But that's just that's my opinion.
It's a good idea.
Councillor Randy?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. If motion 2 is defeated as it's presented, can we then represent on the floor this evening the full closure of the site? Because 3 members are in favor of that at least.
I'm personally not in favor of this one, just my opinion, only
Sure.
because Noelville does incorporate many roads. You're going from Whitetail to Trout Lake to Manettville to, if we're closing Wolseley Bay, I mean, I think you would cause a lot of chaos if you could close it down completely. If you close it down 4 days a week, you know, maybe we can adjust to that, but that's just my recommendation. So,
So I was just asking a technical question though. Can we, if we decide to defeat the motion, reapprove a new motion tonight? Calling for the closure, or then, I mean, we'll vote obviously on the motion presented. And if it's defeated, can we table a new motion this evening?
Mayor Pajot?
I would caution you to be careful what you wish for, because if you defeat this and your other one gets defeated, then there's nothing that happens. Okay, because you may have 3, but they're, it's not a guarantee. You need 4 to carry the day. I think that what council needs to do is think about what we're doing here. We're going to be implementing some major changes, especially in Noelville. So we're going from offering 24/7 garbage to limiting when they can and cannot come. And I think if you're going to implement some major changes, do it in small. It's easier to change people's behavior when it's not a huge challenge for us to get them into good habits, and not to. I think the uproar will be less and buy-in will be more if it's done the way that it's being presented. I think that the committee, the environmental committee, had a very good discussion about it. And if you recall, not everybody was supportive of this to even limit the hours. So I think that the recommendation that's before you is a good start. Setting up a time frame that Councillor Richard suggested is not a bad thing. I would defer to staff on that, because I think Councillor Richard's right. You need a full cycle year, but you may need 14 months. So I would leave it the way it is and let the process work and see, and then evaluate as we're going along. Maybe we can do something more drastic in 6 months after we start this experiment, and then we find out that it's going really well. I don't want to be tied into something that is based on months when you may or may not need it. So those are my thoughts. And I would tell council to just, these are huge changes. And once it gets out there that this is happening, people are going to be questioning it. And the idea is for people to buy into it. And drastic changes all at once, but it's like being thrown in the water at the end of the dock on April 27th, right? So I would caution you, but I would support the way that the motion is read.
I agree.
Okay. Councillor Dave?
I'm going to agree with Mayor Pajot. I do agree that it should be gone completely, but like Mayor Pajot said, as a trial, just to slowly implement it, it makes sense to me, and I'm ready to support it.
Okay, so are we ready to vote, cast a vote on this?
No.
You have Richard.
Councillor Richard? Yeah.
So through you, so I just want to clarify. So the motion that we have before us is what Councillor Rene was suggesting a while ago, was that we close the site for certain hours of the day while the landfill site is open, and it's going to be open every hour, every day for those after hours portion, right? And we're not considering closing it totally, correct? That's the motion on the floor, right? Okay, all right. I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Okay. So we just,
I'll move the motion.
all in favor?
You need a mover and a seconder.
Oh, I thought we already moved it and seconded it already. Another one?
Yes,
No,
you did.
Can we at least ask for the amendment then to fully implement Councillor Carrier's plan, so that overnight on the days that the dump is open? So it's only open Saturday afternoon, Sunday all day and night, Monday all day and night, Tuesday all day and night, and closes Wednesday morning. And from then on the 24-hour cycle is closed, because this current proposal allows it to be open at night when the landfill is closed. So can we at least amend that part of it to allow so that the overnight hours, it will be closed on the days the dump would normally be operating, so that it is only open for 4 days of the week on a 24-hour cycle, then closed for the other days, or 3 days, or whatever the decision is?
That's not the motion, though.
That's
I
not-
know. That's why I'm asking for an amendment to the motion.
Mark, if you want to speak to this?
Two things, if I may, Madam Chair, is as the motion speaks, the staff is to prepare an implementation plan. Certainly, we'll take the comments and work with staff in terms of working the hours of modification prior to going forward. I can't speak about the ideas at this point in time until I've had the opportunity to discuss it with the managers of the various locations of how it may or may not affect them or employees at this point in time. If you allow us the ability to come up with an implementation plan with the recommendations in terms of how we would operate the closure and opening of the public works yard, just leave it to staff to come up with those recommendations. Is that fair, Kevin?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. That way we can go through the hours and see when it is appropriate and come back to you with it.
Okay, so I think we're pretty much all in favor to direct staff to give us your come up with a plan, give us your recommendation, and we're all on the same, pretty much the same page when it comes to number 2, this resolution. Mark?
Apologize, I was listening to something else. So the resolution, do you want me to reread it?
Yes, please.
Okay, and if I can just reconfirm who moved and seconded, please.
I believe Councillor Randy, did you set
Yeah, you can put my
motion?
name down, it's fine.
Okay, and Councillor Dave. Randy and seconded by Dave.
Thank you. I haven't read resolutions in a very long time. I apologize. Whereas at their meeting held April 17th, 2021, the Environmental Advisory Committee reviewed and discussed the overview report prepared by staff in relation to the recommendations included in the third-party waste collection review dated October 15th, 2020, and have submitted the recommendations for Council's consideration. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council approves that the waste transfer site at the Public Works Yard be closed during landfill operating hours and direct staff to prepare an implementation plan, monitor, and report on activities of the modified hours.
All in favor? Okay, carried. Number 3, a recommendation to Council to consider curbside recycling service for the urban areas within the municipality. I need a mover for this. Councillor Dave, and a seconder, Councillor Bob.
Sorry for repeating myself, but every resolution is written the same way. Whereas at their meeting held April 17th, 2021, the Environmental Advisory Committee reviewed and discussed the overview report prepared by staff in relation to the recommendations included in their third-party waste collection review dated October 15th, 2020, and have submitted their recommendation for Council's consideration. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to release an RFP for curbside recycling services for the urban areas within the municipality, understanding that the implementations and costs will be subject to further considerations in the 2022 budget process.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Number 4, recommendation to Council to increase monitoring of the Alban Waste Transfer Site. I need a mover and a seconder for this one. Councillor Richard, seconded by Councillor Dave. You can read the motion.
If everybody's in agreement, whereas what I said in the previous resolution, is that okay? So now therefore be it resolved that Council directs staff to increase monitoring at the Alban Waste Transfer Site on weekends and during peak usage. And
Okay,
for Council's
all in favor? Oh. Okay, carried. Number 5, recommendation to Council to direct staff to research and report on financial considerations to fence and supervise the Alban, Manedville, and Shaw Road waste transfer sites. A mover and Councillor Richard and Councillor Bob.
Again, whereas the same preamble, now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to research and report on financial considerations for the fencing and equipping of the Albin, Manettville, and Shaw Road waste transfer sites.
Okay, all in favor of this recommendation? Okay, motion carried. Okay,
Madam Deputy Mayor,
yes?
I just for the public so that they understand that there's no misunderstanding, for recommendation number 2, staff is preparing a report to come back to us with the recommendations of the exact hours, whether it's a combination of what is suggested here or what you suggested, Madam Chair. And the other resolutions that have money cost attached to them have to come back for approval to council before anything is implemented. So anything that there's a cost attached to it need, except for number 4, because that's already budgeted, but the rest of them that have cost implications have to come back for approval. So, you know, people, I don't want people to think that tomorrow the Noelville bin sites are going to be closed. Okay.
No, and that's correct. Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I notice as we go on past the recommendations and where the motions come, that there's a conclusion that someone has written here that says that the landfill should be operated on a pay-for-use basis. Where did this come from?
Kevin?
Through you, Madam Chair, to answer you, Councillor Van Born, yeah, that I wrote that conclusion.
I'm glad that at the present time, it's not part of our recommendations firmly. I can see your point, but I think the reaction from most people would be, we pay a hell of a lot of taxes.
Yeah, it is more for use. If you pay in your taxes for a certain amount of waste, but all the stuff you use above and beyond that, like you should be paying for the space that you use.
But that would require
Interesting
individual.
concept.
Anyway. There's just the tipping fees at the landfill sites, right? Just like every other municipality does.
But Kevin,
Okay,
please
we'll do.
clarify
We look
that-
forward to the recommendations and the reports to come in the future. Mayor Pajot?
I just want to clarify, I don't think this was meant for the household. People going, instead of going to the bins to get rid of their household waste and recycling, and they go to the landfill. You're not suggesting by any means, I hope, that they pay additional funds.
No, through you, Madam Chair. No, that is not it. I was saying, like,
that's what
in your taxes, everybody pays a certain amount for their household waste, and everybody gets allotted a certain amount. But if you are overusing and creating a lot of waste and bringing a lot of stuff in, then that should be cost, like tipping fees, and you should have to pay for the space that you're taking up from the municipal waste or landfill site. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I think there's still lots of discussions, lots of comments, but can we wait off a little bit and discuss further at more meetings, or so we'll never? Okay, Councillor Richard.
Yeah, sorry, through just a comment on that. I think the tipping fees is probably a good idea, but the only thing is that in order to do that, you need to have a scale and you need to monitor. So for example, if somebody goes to Sudbury, landfill site, I believe you're entitled to, I think that's changed there, but I think you're entitled to 110 or 120 kilograms per week or something to that effect, but you can only monitor that when you're getting to the gate, and then you've got a scale. So I think the idea is okay, but we're far from that because we don't have a scale and we don't have the system in order to implement the up and above of what regular landfill is, how much they're sending to the landfill. So anyway.
Okay. We good to continue on. Thank you everybody for your comments and good, I think we had some good discussion, and there'll be more to come in the future. So we'll continue on to 6.4, Recreation and Community Services. 6.4.1, a resolution to award the contract for the supply and installation of an ice plant header at the Noelville Arena. So is Mark going to read the resolution for this one?
If I have a mover and a seconder.
Oh, okay. Moved by Randy, seconded by Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So be it resolved that council awards the contract for the supply and installation of the PVC ice plant header at the Noelville Arena to Simcoe Refrigeration Division of Toromont Industries for an amount of $37,400 plus applicable taxes.
Does anybody have any questions or comments to this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. 6.4.2, the Chair's Report, Recreation and Community Advisory Committee. That would be myself. Number 1, recommendation to celebrate Canada Day virtually. We thought it would be best for this year because of COVID relations to just maybe do a virtual celebration and maybe give out some bags prior to. So I believe I need a mover and a seconder for this. Moved by Randy, seconded by Richard. Did you want to read the motion, Mark?
You're on mute, Mark.
Sorry. Whereas at their meeting held April 27th, 2021, the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee discussed the annual Canada Day celebration. Now therefore be it resolved that council agrees to continue with the virtual Canada Day celebration and use the funds obtained from the Canadian Heritage Fund of $4,000 to purchase items for Canada Day family kits for safe distribution during the COVID-19 pandemic.
So just to add to that, these kits would include probably tree planting, Canadian flags, pins, stuff like that. Kat-In did reach out to me yesterday and we brainstormed a few ideas. And they're also probably going to reach out to the library to try to do a photo contest in that. So we're going to try to get as many kits out as possible. Maybe reach out to different businesses in the area to give to the children and that to try to get everybody on board. So they're going to be, staff is going to be looking at different things that they could do in order to have a Canada Day celebration within the families, within our municipality. So all in favor of this? Okay, carried. Number 2, recommendation to adopt the amended volunteer appreciation policy and recognize volunteers in a virtual fashion for 2021. I need a mover. Councillor Bob, seconder, Councillor Randy. Oh, Mark?
Yeah. We don't have a resolution for this item, Madam Chair, for the simple reason. If you could maybe give a brief overview of the changes verbally, and we'll provide council with a copy of the changes for consideration and adoption at the next meeting.
Okay, so at our meeting, our last meeting, we so last year we didn't have a presentation, but the year before that when we did, we because it was the first year implementing these new recommendations and the new policies, we kind of tweaked it to be able to make better decisions. One of them was allowing who could be eligible to be recognized as a volunteer. A lot of people don't live here year round, but they do a lot of volunteer work in our area. So we did include a section in that says that individuals from out of town that do volunteer in our area could potentially qualify to win a volunteer award. So that was one of the things. Number 2, a few other things were just calling it a recognition ceremony versus volunteer appreciation. Just renaming. So there's a few changes like that. Few ways the process is being done. So I think if we can just send it out to everybody so everybody can have a look at it. I think we just made small changes to try to make it easier in the process. And at the same time, agree that we could arrange for some kind of virtual presentation, whether we do it through Zoom. And also inviting everybody that is nominated to participate and only give out the information of the winners on the night of versus only inviting the winner. So we think it's important to include all the volunteers because they should all be recognized. Whether they are, you know, number 1 or number 10 on the list, they are all important, you know. So those were some of the changes that we recommended at our meeting. So we thought we would bring that forth to you guys to see the changes to help facilitate the way things are done moving forward. Okay. All good with that? Number 3, recommendation to approve the musical instrument project and fundraising efforts. On this, we bring a recommendation to council that once the $20,000 in fundraising is raised, at that time we would look at getting staff to put in the PO and purchasing the musical instruments. So until I believe there is a recommendation for this one. Or is there a resolution for this one, Mark?
Yes, if we can get a mover and a seconder, please.
Okay, a mover, Councillor Randy.
And also, through you, Madam Chair, I would just make comment to the second part that says, and that the committee continues to fundraise through the municipal advertising and donation requests. So the municipality is taking on handling the finances of this, collecting the donations and advertising this project, because it's already collected potentially nearly $23,000 once we secure the commitments from the Case Populaire. So just so the public's aware that the municipality is stepping in to take on some of this project.
Okay, Councillor Randy. Richard? You're on
Thank
mute.
you. Yep, thank you. So I just want to clarify, we're talking about the Alban location. We're not talking about Joe Chartrand instruments, right?
No, we're talking about the Alban location,
Okay.
the
All right,
Alban Park.
Okay, thank
And
you.
it's only to direct staff to once the funds are secured,
Yeah.
then at that time we would continue with the process.
Thank you.
And so we're well on our way. And so this way, if you want to go ahead and read the we need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Councillor Randy and a seconder. Councillor Richard. Would
Whereas
you like to read the resolution?
Whereas at their meeting held, am I on? No, I'm not on. April 27th, 2021, the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee discussed the purchase and installation of a park musical equipment. Now therefore be it resolved that council approves that the musical instrument project be led by the Recreation and Community Advisory Committee, and further that the committee continues to fundraise through municipal advertising and donation requests to reach the ultimate goal of $20,000. Council has already committed $5,000 for the purchase and installation of 2 musical instruments at the Alban Park, with the understanding that the procurement process of the equipment will be started once all funds are in place or committed.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, passed. 6.5, Emergency and Protection Services, nil. 6.6, Building, Planning and Development. 6.6.1, a resolution to approve the Sudbury East Planning Board 2021 municipal apportionment. So I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Dave, seconded by Councillor Bob. Go ahead, Mark.
Be it resolved that council approves the 2021 Sudbury East Planning Board municipal apportionment in the amount of $57,046.
All in favor? Okay. 6.6.2, a resolution to adopt a bylaw to deem part of a registered plan not to be registered. I need A mover, Counselor Dave, seconder, Counselor Randy. You're on mute, Mark.
Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-30 being a bylaw to deem part of a registered plan not to be registered, Roque Blanchette and Sylvie Bogina be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay. 6.7 correspondence. I don't believe there is any, but before, oh, yes,
There's a
Councillor
deeming
Dean.
bylaw.
Pardon me?
There's a deeming bylaw also.
Oh,
Or is that all
Oh.
one?
it was all in
Through you,
one, I
Madam
believe,
Chair.
Dean.
Yeah, one was the report, the second one was the bylaw.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. So before I handle the meeting back over to Giselle, just want to say happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And also want to wish Giselle a happy birthday coming up soon. So her birthday's on the 15th, so we won't be seeing each other before her birthday. So happy birthday, Giselle.
Oh,
And now I need a mover and a seconder to go back into Counselor Dean
29
and
again,
Counselor Dave.
Be it resolved that the committee rise and report.
All
All
in
right.
favor?
Well,
Good.
thank you. Nice job, Councillor Renee, because I know that was a longer meeting than usual, and the environmental committee report was had a lot of chewing to do on it. So, and it's only the beginning. So, thank you. I need a resolution to consider the adoption of the recommendations from the Committee of the Whole, moved by Rick, seconded by Renee. All those in favor? Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I should let you read it, eh? I know.
I know I'm out of practice, but be it resolved that the actions taken in Committee of the Whole in considering delegations, reports, and correspondence be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? Thank you. Under the consent agenda, a resolution to adopt the items contained in the consent agenda. I need a mover and a seconder, Randy and Rick.
Be it resolved that council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 7.1 and receives the items under section 7.3.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. There are no notices of motions. Announcement. Renee, you can, oh, sorry. Yes, Randy.
I have an inquiry.
Oh,
It says
inquire.
announcements and inquiries. I have an inquiry.
Okay,
Can Mark-
inquire.
Can Mark Gagnon get a new microphone? It's kind of muffled. He sounds like he's in a closet. The public, you know, that was my
Yes.
inquiry. Thank you.
That's a good suggestion. I thought it was just my ears going. So,
Apologize, it's the way that I'm placing the pages when I'm reading.
Madam
Bob,
Mayor,
hang on a second.
yes, I
Bob.
have a.
Go
No, I
ahead.
have a quick question.
Sure.
Do we track the amount of people, the amount of viewers we have at our meetings?
Yeah, it's trackable. Yes. Carly usually, I guess it'll be Kat in now who can give you the stats on how many people are watching.
Okay, I'm just curious. Maybe
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
you could get a quick email and sometime
Yeah.
next week with.
Yeah, maybe
dates and
we can
that's
add
it.
this.
And
Mhm. We can add that to Kevin's list of things to look at.
okay,
Yes,
thank
Dean.
you.
You're welcome. Dean?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, with all the new equipment that we purchased for the council chamber, when will we be able to sit suitably spaced at the council chamber and have these meetings?
Well, the council chamber, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is ready now. However, with the stay-at-home order, we cannot get together yet, but it's ready.
After May 20th?
Well, it depends what the province does. I can't even begin to predict what's going to happen. So once we're allowed gatherings, depending on the size of the gatherings, then that's when we'll be able to resume in person. And since we're continuing the Zoom meetings, the public is still open meeting. So whether you come physically or not, and again, depending on the province's orders and the number of gatherings, that'll determine when we get back together.
Thank you.
Hopefully soon.
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, very soon.
Okay.
I've
Any
never seen
other-
Bob. I've never seen Bob take his proper chair yet. So
That's right. That's right.
Bob has
Yeah.
never seen his chair yet.
right.
That's good.
I think I
All
suppose
right.
yours is better than mine, so I think I'm going to swap.
You won't know the difference anyway. So, alrighty. Again, thank you, Renee, for wishing all the mothers a happy Mother's Day that's coming up. As well, today is May 5th, and it's the day where people are supposed to remember Indigenous women and girls that have been abducted. And so perhaps we can have a special thoughts for those that are missing or have been subject to any form of violence, including death. So a special thought goes out to the Indigenous women. And I think that's all I have for now. So I need a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaw. Renee and Dave.
Be resolved that bylaw 2021-31 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the municipality of French River at a meeting held on May 5th, 2021, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Thank you. I need a resolution to adjourn. Moved by Randy, seconded by Bob.
Be it resolved that the meeting be adjourned at 7:57 p.m.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Bonsoir tout le monde. Merci beaucoup et à la prochaine.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Bonsoir.